Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John's report is for the 8th of November, and we can see that now the ABM yellow has caught up to where price is. It's relative. Looking at a 30.60 versus 30.88 range or 82 range. Starting to plateau. We've got Fibonacci lines rising from the low now. But we're just starting to plateau at the 100%. So as long as that maintains, the key element right here is we got Azure getting ever so close to gold, and when we know when that meets, that's going to be more attention necessary to the maneuvers of the DOC. But DOC saying under red, always buy. The steel crossing back below it would be significant if you also had green crossing below. Otherwise, it's just going to be more of the same, which is continuation to the upside here, and the shakeout continuing its perfect rise. I think we reached all-time equity highs on the 50K. Let's take a look while we have an opportunity. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yes, there it is. And a lovely graph line going up for that. Total performance report. 1,096, 1.6 profit factor. Periodic returns, good look at that. It's been a huge year. More than double 2018 so far. Long way to go too. Quite a bit of time. Now this is the T program, I do believe. Let's verify that one just to make sure. Yep. The PowerMo 2 Opus 2T. If we look at the other one, which is the regular, not too different, just a few trades differential we calculate. So slightly less for the year in gains, performance report wise, also at its equity highs, and it does have a slightly better profit factor. And also over the million mark as well. And this would be since, 2016, actually a little after that, because the chart starts from 2015. So, not bad. Can't complain. In fact, from a 50K standpoint, you can see we're in a little bit of a weakness here. We had the DOC spread take place mid part of yesterday, and steel has been completely reset to it, but now we're sort of caught in because we didn't get the steel to climb above sign there, you're caught in a little bit of a continuation doldrum. We do have rising gold, no Azure, anything like that, and the shakeout barely negative at this particular spot, and you finally might have magenta cross below. Would be a new rising setup if that's possible, and that would be the ability to hold it back to even or get back up to the highs up near 3,100. So keep an eye out for that. It's the other 50K, and moving on to our NASDAQ chart. Same situation. It's a little bit softer from a even steel standpoint on the DOC, but and you nearly have it Azure reaching gold. And even when the Azure reaches the gold, doesn't mean that's the end of it. It's just that's usually where you get your turning point. So we're going to see at that stage whether or not we start to get a fade off, or if it's able to sustain itself and continue. Turning to the euro, and we filled the positive extremes that happened over there. We were looking, the next positive extremes were right here. And we should just about be at that point. Yep, right there. So, that was a beautiful fill. Now, you also have a situation though where you're below the red line. All that positive talk about the euro, the whole setup and everything is not looking so positive anymore. Germans had their elections. It didn't go so well for the normalized parties, so things could get interesting, particularly if the vote in Britain turns out to be different than the establishment is looking for. But we're still within this upper range of the move, so there's nothing to get tweaked about. It will put a little downside pressure on the S&P. From an oil standpoint, still right within our range. That's perfect. No objections to where it sits or anything like that. Intraday activity, well, gold. Yeah, gold's actually moved to the bottom side of the range because, again, there just is nothing taking place at this particular time to give it motivation for a move. You don't really have tensions or anything that's causing drama, and there's certainly no inflation at this particular point given how weak the growth is through most of the world except for the US. And from a 5K standpoint, we started up early, and let me just slide over just a fraction, and from that point it was off to the races. I mean, there just really was nothing to do from that standpoint. This is from the beginning of the day, so we had the big spike, flattened out. The steel was a complete reset, even when we had the DOC spread, which, was a modest dip. Of course, it just took you right here to the 76%, and immediately green took over, led to the new highs, and again, we just stayed with that steel for the most part, riding all the way underneath. We got a little bit of a DOC spread here. Yeah, when you look at these, this actually looks like a decent move at this particular point. The drawback for this one was you didn't have the steel come above and below. In this case, when the steel came above and below, you're looking for the break with the spike. You never got it. It just didn't happen. And so when it happens a little bit later, right here, you already have the steel from below, and right here where you had this confluence, signal that you might have something, but that's a tough one because, again, it's only going to signal for modest. What you did notice, though, was the shakeout being much lower on matching highs, but it probably still wouldn't have produced much of a thing, for anyone looking at that. We had the positive extremes. They go all the way down to the 74 range, and it became a little bit clearer when you ended up with the spike of steel coming across, and then boom, when it crossed back below on the same move with the steel, and that's why that one got marked, and that's the one that really had the confluence of everything. And then you went into the short mode without a steel reset at all. And fast forward all the way through. So that took us to the small crossover here of green above cyan for like the 1 bar on the pivot, and then it immediately reversed, and you didn't have even a steel cross below steel and back above, which would have given a little bit more strength to it if it had happened at the same time. Similar situation happens here off of same P2 pivot construct, cyan over green. This case, you're coming off of a plus 13.5. So the question at this particular case is, all right, if you go with it, is it going to pop above? It doesn't do that, but you also then are just waiting for the steel to cross below cyan for it to end. And that happens right here. And it happens actually before the peak of the move, because you still haven't had a reset or anything. And red DOC was sketchy at best. But once it crossed, and you had the orange spike and everything else all in line, it still shot up before making the break back down. And again, these have all been positive dips because they all happen with extremes above the red line. So you had no, other than this one previous one over here, that was the only one that had to fill. And so that puts us in right now, we're in the middle of the, clear DOC spread at this particular spot. So we'll see if that is enough to drive it to fill that last positive extreme here, which is the full 3074. So that's the long and the short of it. Always fun. Have a great trade day. I'll put up anything that's unique or interesting. As always, though, trade well.